Greg, go.
It's a weird day, another weird con, and I'm happy to be here and glad everybody else is here. And as usual, I will ask our panelists to introduce themselves, and we'll start at the far end and work our way this way, please.
Hi, I'm Chris Kennedy. I have 6 fiction novels, military fiction, science fiction, 1 fantasy, and then how-to book, self-publishing for profit. Really excited to be here today.
Chris, thank you. My name's JT Glover. I write fiction that's usually some flavor of fantasy or horror. Live here in Richmond. I'm a research librarian by day, a writer by, well, night or very early hours. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here on this panel today.
Ditto. My name is Alan Steele. I'm the guest of honor for this convention. Okay, I published 19 novels, the 20th coming out next year, and I'm going to work on the 21st. But somewhere close to about 100 short stories, and 6 collection of short stories has just come out today, or this week.
Jack Trammell. I'm a professor at Randolph-Macon College. I have written a lot of books. I ran for Congress last fall in Eric Cantor's old seat, and had a vampire novel that got famous even though it hasn't been written yet.
Are there politicians in the vampire? Wait a minute, that's
That would actually be a pretty good story. I mean, I'm not really much vampire fiction, but I would read a book about a vampire politician.
Then Michael Ventrella, who is at this convention, has a book coming out
about vampire politicians.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So there's a nice plug for Mike if you don't know him. My name is Rinehart. I'm your moderator today. In terms of fiction, I published some stories in Analog and Asimov's and Intergalactic Medicine Show, and some anthology work. I am the contributing editor, also known as the Slushmaster General for Bain Books. So I evaluate all of the unsolicited manuscripts that come in. And if we get into that, I have some things that have been sent to me as the Slushmaster that might illustrate what not to say to an editor. But what I'd like to first do for my panelists, and I think we'll start here with Jack and move down that way, is to pose the question, well, wait, stop. I forgot. I always like to sort of get an idea of the audience so we know who we're talking to. How many folks are really interested in writing and came to this because you don't want to ruin your career? Very good, very good. We just want to make sure that we're communicating the right things to the right folks. So, back to my question, and that is, what is the measure of your success in terms of your career?
Wow, that's a tough one. I thought I'd reached the pinnacle when I published my first novel. It turned out that wasn't such a big deal. I thought I'd reached the pinnacle when I sold 20,000 books past that mark, but it turned out that wasn't such a big deal. I thought I'd reached the pinnacle when the Washington Post reviewed my vampire novel that hasn't even been written yet in their book section. So it's the only non-book that's ever been reviewed in their book section. And that book's still not done, by the way. And so I don't know how you measure success exactly. Some people might look at it in terms of sales and notoriety. I'm an academic, and so every once in a while somebody says something nice about something I've written, and that really feels good. So that's probably my measure.
That's a good question. I don't really think in those terms. I've been doing this now for 26 years. Okay, actually more than that. Jesus God, 26. It's been more like about 28 years. That was when I walked off my last salary job. And every day that I don't have to go in and earn a paycheck, I consider to be a success. But on the other hand, I know I sell I sell books better than some of my colleagues, but I don't sell nearly as many books as others of my colleagues. On some days I wake up and I think, your career's doing really very I go, God, it's rotten. Why did I ever leave journalism? There's no real set standard, I think. There's little things that happen. Last month I went and was invited back to my high school alma mater to speak. The irony of that was that I hated my high school, and could not stand the place. And so, okay, there's a certain measure of success there when you're asked to come back and speak to your high school. It's so. As I say, if I can, I feel when I was 15 years old, I decided that I wanted to be a science fiction writer when I grew up. I mean, not just a writer, but I wanted to be very specifically a science fiction writer. So now I'm at age 57, and I'm a science fiction writer. And there's not a lot of people who get to say that they're doing that thing that they would set out to do when they were 15. So that's a measure of success.
After those kinds of articulate answers, I don't really know what I have to add, but I will say I feel very similar to a lot of what you were saying. You have to measure success for yourself. I said to myself very early on, whatever, 7 years old, I'm going to be a writer when I grow up. And I got distracted by a lot of different things en route. I was going to be an ancient historian, go to graduate school, do some archaeology. I love libraries, become a librarian. So I succeed in those ways with those things that I love. My fiction, I didn't, I don't have 20 novels out. I don't have one novel out. I've published half a dozen or so short stories. And, there'll be a collection along the way, shopping all around, all that. And so I've had that sort of rolling mark of success too, where I've, on a smaller scale, where, okay, a story in an anthology, a story co-written with somebody I really like working with, something online, something, nominated for an award, whatever, things like that, or honorable mention or what have you. And those are all really fine markers of success. And, there are always more empires to conquer, always more worlds to conquer until they're all conquered. There's going to come a time, hopefully, where I've written all those novels, have all those reprints, and I'll still be looking for that next thing. It's just human nature. So with that.
I agree. I think we're probably all up here because we're somewhat driven. So when you achieve that one thing, the bar goes higher. So you are continually reassessing your goals and trying to meet the next one. I read 81% of people have a story they want to tell. That was never me. I came to this kind of late in life. It all of a sudden I had a story one day, and success was sitting down and writing it. And then after went through all of the editing process, got a cover, did all of the things right, because I researched, okay, how do I do this right? I was sitting there with the cursor over publish, and I finally did it, and that was a success. And then I looked at, the next time Amazon cycled through and somebody had bought it, and that was a success. That was a huge success. Somebody bought my book. Look at that. So it's the bar has been raised several times since then. The most recent success was my wife said, oh dear God, how are we going to pay for my son's first tuition check at George Mason? And I went, oh, Amazon just sent us some. I'll stroke a check. And that was very nice. Couldn't have come at a better time.
Well, thinking about the fact that each of you sort of had,